I say hello. There's no one watching, but I say hello because this is going to be archived, I guess. So I say hello to whoever is watching this in the future. This is me. I'm live streaming today with a different plan than what I normally do. Usually I use these live streams as like lectures. I basically talk through or explain or demonstrate whatever I would normally do in a classroom, and then students watch it whenever they can, I guess, or hopefully live. But today I'm going to be doing something different. I'm going to just work through a tutorial, and this is a tutorial I've not done before. I did not create this tutorial, I found it, and I thought I would just kind of work through it today on this stream here and see how far I can get in an hour with this. I've done text generation with neural networks before. I've not used GPT-2 before, so this is sort of new, but kind of some familiar territory, so hopefully the tutorial is something I can figure out and follow pretty well. Let me see it. I think I will put, just in case anyone tunes into this, I'm going to put the link to the tutorial that I'm following in the Twitch chat. I think I can do that. And then in case you want to try it too while I'm doing it. So let me find it again. I got different computers here. So, and where was it? Now, there are lots of ways you can interact with GPT-2 without doing what I'm doing. What I wanted to do was to make it so that, where is this? Maybe I have to log in over here. Sorry, too many screens. Basically, I just wanted to play with it myself a bit. I mean, there are definitely places where you can hook into GPT-2 and kind of off-the-shelf platforms like Runway ML where you can just plug something in and then get a result. And that's fine. You're certainly welcome to do that, obviously, if you are in my class or whatever, or if you're just a person, you can do these things. But I wanted to try to get into it a little bit myself. So, okay, here it is. And kind of understand what it's doing and see what if anything, is different about it compared to what I've done with RNNs. My experience with RNNs, I mean, I've done some things. I've enjoyed them. It's hard to be, I don't know, it's hard to enjoy the output of that. I think you have to do a fair amount of filtering with the output to find the good stuff, if that makes sense. And so I haven't done a lot with that, and it's, I don't know, it just seems like the results are kind of just okay. And what I've done before, for example, is I tried to take all of the inputs of NanoGenmo, like all the works produced for NanoGenmo, train a neural network on those generated texts, and then see what it could do. And it was okay. It's kind of like if you imagine taking all the paint in like a watercolor set and then mixing it all together, and then that's what you get at the end. You kind of end up with a grayish brownish mush, and it's not very interesting. And that's been my experience with neural networks a lot. It's often more sensible or language-like than what you get from a Markov chain, but it's a bit, it's still kind of mush. So I have an idea though. I'm going to try it today and see how this goes. All right, so here's, where could I put this link? What if I put it in, can I edit broadcast options? Oh yeah, I can. No, I don't want to do that there. Sorry, I don't usually use Twitch on this computer. I usually use it on this one, which you can't see, but I'll just put it here in the chat, on the Twitch channel. And yeah, like I said, I'm just following this tutorial. I didn't make this tutorial. I have lots of tutorials. I spent all day, pretty much yesterday, recording short videos. You can check them out on my YouTube channel if you want to, but they're mainly for my 301 class. 10 to 15 minutes long, 6 different ways. I think I ended up with 6 yesterday, maybe 5. Different ways to generate a novel, and a Python notebook to go with each, so that you can follow along if you want to. Okay, so let me switch over here to my browser. Here we go. Yeah, this is what I was saying in Canvas. This is all the things I produced yesterday. Sorry, I was doing a little shopping there, thinking about getting a new toothbrush. So let's take a look. This is the tutorial that I'm following. This is written by Max Woolf, and it uses the GPU in Google Collaboratory, which is what I obviously have here. And I've been using Collaboratory a lot recently, so I thought this would be a good good thing to demonstrate for my students, but also just to kind of help me get used to working with it. So I'm literally just going to follow this and kind of talk through it as I go. If I run into any problems, hopefully I'll be able to solve them on the stream here. So let's just see. First thing I'm doing, I'm making a copy of it so that I can have it in my own drive, and then we'll see what happens. The text I have in mind to train on is I put a text file together of every script of every Star Trek: The Next Generation episode. So I have all that in a text file on my drive, and that's what I'm going to try to train this on and see what happens. See if I can generate a new script. Okay, so let's see. And this is kind of like, there's that meme where it's like I trained a bot on, I forced a bot to watch 10,000 hours of Bob Ross, and this is the script it generated. Those are all made up, by the way, but they are pretty funny, and they're based on the kind of thing I'm actually doing here. We'll see what happens. Confirm I'm not a robot. Seriously? Am I a robot? Okay, so it looks like this is setting up TensorFlow and installing the GPT-2 simple Python module, which I think Max Woolf, the author of this, I think he created that. So it's doing a bit to set this up, it looks like. And there's a warning, but that's all right. It looks like it's just a warning, not saying it didn't work. It's just saying, by the way, you should know about this. Okay, it uses either NVIDIA T4 or GPT-4 slightly faster. So I can verify. Okay. Let's see. So I basically want, I want the T4. So oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so I am using the T4, I guess. All right, I wasn't sure what this meant in terms of like what to do differently. Although, am I running the T4? Like, am I connected to a GPU or not? I thought I have to switch to that. Let's see, maybe it already did that. Oh, okay, I guess it already is set on the GPU accelerator. Okay, great. So I must have done that automatically in the settings here. Maybe that was why it asked me if I was a robot. Maybe that something up here was doing that. I don't know. Well, anyway, seems like we're good. So let's move on. So GPT-2 is basically a brain, like a computer brain, and there are different sizes of it and different smartnesses of it. And I'm going to see if I can do the medium one today. It's 1.5 gigabytes, but that should be okay. I have room in my drive for that. So let's see. It's the, right, so it looks like for this we just switch out whichever model we want, and it's set on the small one, which is 124 megabytes, so let's try the 355M one, see what happens. Looks like it's downloading that. I'm not sure where it's putting that. I guess it's putting it in the virtual memory of this notebook. Okay, looks like it works. Things are going well so far. Okay, so I'm going to mount this drive here. This might pop up an authentication code, authorization code. I guess I shouldn't put this on the screen, but yeah, it's probably fine. No one's really watching. And there we go. Maybe someone is watching. Let me see. I haven't pulled up. I don't have my stream manager up here. Oh, I do have one viewer. Maybe it's just me watching myself. I don't know. Okay, so that seems like it's... Is it done yet? Or it should be. It shouldn't take that long. Okay, there it goes. Mounted. Great. So now I have on the left, from there I can upload some files. That's right. Okay. Upload any smaller text file that's, and then update the name cell below. Okay, great. I know how to do that. Over here on the left, I've got, looks like in the example here, the screenshot, he's got various things, but I don't have this, I don't know if wow config vocab, that might be related to the particular thing that he was generating when he took that screenshot. In my case, I need to go back into my drive and get the next generation text file, And I guess I'll just, I mean, I could just load it straight from the drive probably, but I'll just follow the directions as closely as possible because this is pretty small. Okay, so where did I download that? There we go. Yeah, this ended up being 5.5 megabytes for all of every script from every episode. 175 episodes, I think, if I counted right. So pretty cool. I found it on a website and just kind of wrote a Python script to scrape them all from it. Okay, so my file name is not Shakespeare.txt, it's tng.txt. I was thinking about this, by the way, because I heard Patrick Stewart on the radio yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, Star Trek The Next Generation. I haven't thought about that for a while. I think it's time to get my kids into that. Okay, so copy, this is, all right. Is this a redundant step, or we do both of these? I guess let's just try and see what happens. I'm not clear if this is the alternative to this if you have it in the drive already, because it's calling this custom function from GPT-2, so I don't know what that does, if it does the same thing as this, or if it just needs that first. Yeah, I don't know. Let's keep going. Usually with things like this, you just kind of go through it, run it with defaults first, and then see what happens. So here we go. Now we're fine tuning, and this is the part that might start taking a little time. I mean, ultimately, I don't know how long this is going to take to train. Sometimes these things take, hours or days to train. I don't know if this is the training step. I can't tell if this is the training step or. Yeah, I think this is the training step. So this may take a really long time. I don't know. If it does, then I'll do something else for the rest of the stream or shut it down and restart it whenever it's done training. So let's find out. I just changed this to the model name because that's the model I use, and I'm also just letting everything else stay here as the defaults and kind of just waiting to see what will happen. But ultimately, I think once it's trained on these scripts, then I should be able to generate new text from it. So that this is the hard part in terms of the computation. Like this is the hard part. Like I'm not doing it, the computer's doing it, so I'm just waiting for it. But the generating text part should be pretty easy, just following the directions. Just probably just call it up and then print some text. Okay, so this is supposed to be, if I understand what it's doing anyway, printing. Okay, there we go. I was gonna say it should be telling me what it's doing and like showing some kind of progress, and that looks like progress. So, okay, so it looks like it loaded, it tokenized it, or did whatever to turn all those scripts into symbols. Usually it changes letters into numbers, and it has 1.5 million tokens. That's a lot. So now it's training, and this is the point usually it tells you, it starts to tell you, so it's printing looks like it's printing every 10 steps, and it's going up to 1,000 steps in this particular setting here. And a step is like a generation, like it goes through and it's like, how smart am I, how smart, every step it kind of calculates how smart it is, and then it reports back. It looks like it's going to be giving me a sample every 200 steps. And you can kind of see how long each of these is taking. It looks like, I think this is the time. I think it's printing how long those 10 steps took. That seems about right anyway. Which is to say that this is going to take a pretty long time. Thankfully though, this setup here, I believe, will let me resume in case it crashes or times out or something like that. Which is good because sometimes these training things can take days, and if you don't have it set up the right way, you might lose everything if it gets interrupted, or maybe there's a power surge or something. So I think this is just going here, and it seems like the steps are getting longer, or whatever number that is. I can't really tell what it's printing on each of these. I mean, this number is going up, so I don't know if that's, yeah, I guess every one of them is going up. So I don't know what it's counting. it's a float, it's a decimal number, so it's not steps. Steps are going to be integers, like every 10 steps. It probably says somewhere in here, but I can't see it. So I don't know. This is not going to be a very interesting thing to watch on the stream because it's just going to keep ticking through here. Maybe while it's going, I can explain a couple other things, and then I'll just shut this down and start over again later once I actually have something that I can generate. I guess let me talk a little bit about, I mean, in case there's no one watching, but this will be recorded, so I'll just show you a few things that I did. So in Canvas, I've set up a page with a lot of different explanations on it. This first video and the notebook here just show the basic workflow of generating text and then saving that text as a PDF. So it's like a NanoGenmo workflow. And there is a text generation model in that notebook. It's very crude, but it does the job of generating text that then can be printed as PDF. This is a slightly more sophisticated version of that text generation method that is demonstrated in this notebook, but it's basically just different versions of repetition. I think repetition can be interesting, but it really depends on what you're repeating. I think in this case I referred to Crow Storm by Morbid Flight from 2015, I think, or 14, and I made a parody of that called Cow Storm. So it's maybe kind of funny, I don't know. It's just mooing, and it looks sort of like text, and so that's kind of entertaining, I guess. Certainly it's meant as a joke, so perhaps other people enjoy it like I do. It's always, it's not funny to explain jokes, so I don't think that's helpful for me to tell you that it's a joke if you don't find it funny. But that's just what I'm doing there, and it does certainly meet the requirements of NanoGenmo, and it's done. So this is one, I had not used this before, but this is pretty convenient, especially if you liked making bots with cheat bots done quick. This uses the same method by using tracery, but it's tracery implemented in Python, and that was thanks to Alison Parrish's port of tracery to Python. And you can use it in a Python notebook like I'm doing here. It takes a little bit of setup to create a tracery grammar that will generate 50,000 words. And the one I have here doesn't quite do that, but I think hopefully you can see how you might do it. In this case, I'm just explaining the basics of how the tracery grammar works and how it renders this and then flattens it, or I guess compiles and then flattens. This is the beginning of a novel. This only gets up to, I think, 5,000 words or so. It depends on the choices that it makes as it compiles it. But hopefully you can see how you might just keep adding to what I have here, and then you could end up with 50,000 words. Maybe making longer chapters, more options, and yeah, I don't know. All right, so yeah, I'm only up to 4,000 words on this particular model, but your mileage will vary depending on what text you put into it. This is more of a writerly kind of approach, I think. By the way, like you can essentially construct these sentences ahead of time. You could also put tokens within these sentences and make them variable. But you could really construct the text of your book this way. And so it actually could end up sounding somewhat reasonable if you construct it the right way. You have a lot more control, in other words, of the text that's going to get read. This is an approach where you might programmatically swap parts of the text out with something else. And so this is inspired by a few examples. One of them was Moby Dick, Hee Hee. And this is also another one, Paradise Lost, by Christina from last year's creative coding class. And what Christina did is, as you can see here, generates a version of Paradise Lost as though it were narrated by the serpent, which is a character in that. And the way that it's different is every S is stretched out and repeated multiple times. So it's a really simple and clever idea, and I think quite funny in a lot of ways, especially if you try to read it out loud. So that's just using substitution. Now, you have to be clever, like it's relatively easy or straightforward programmatically, but what really sets apart a book like this, if you do this, is what do you choose to replace, and is it interesting? In my example, I just took Pride and Prejudice and then swapped out some of the character names. It's not particularly funny, I don't think. It's just a demonstration of the kind of thing you can do. And in this case, I just use a really basic string replacement, and it's not even regular expressions or anything. If you want to do something more sophisticated, you would have to use regular expressions, which I don't have in the video here. But it can be done. And then Markov chains are a little bit more sophisticated in terms of the text that you can generate, but also a little bit more nonsensy. Like it's the mushed up, the brown gray watercolor kind of outcome, I think. But it's still fun to try. And so I've got a video explaining how to do that using the Markovify Python module. So I do explain a little bit about what a Markov chain is, but then also just show you how to use the Markovify module, which is very straightforward. It just sort of does the work for you. So let's see how, speaking of things doing the work for me, let's see. Here's mine. Oh, it actually generated some output. Great. Yeah, I think this is set up so that it will tell you, it'll preview it every 200 steps. So let's see, this is a preview. Brooke, oh, of course, doctor. Let me tell you about the life I've built up and the work I've done. I'm very happy to hear that my father was the first man to develop it here. You should read that. Brooke, I haven't been able to resist. Data, he's not a liar, but the time has come for you to learn to believe in something else. We need you. We need your insight. Brooke, my father, what has he taught me? Data, he tells us that our lives are made up. Our lives are made up, and that you are part of that made-up piece. This is interesting. I feel like this exchange, I wonder, I mean, there's something strange going on. I mean, this is not from an actual script, but I feel like there are pieces of this conversation that are from the episode where Data meets his brother Lore, and they have this conflict, and they're trying to explain, or they're arguing about their purpose. So, okay, here's interesting. Wow. Okay, this is interesting. What's happening here? Dr. Crusher says, Wesley, will you stop? No. Wesley, stay on. Wesley. I saw Wesley with you, Wesley. I saw Wesley. I saw Wesley. Commander Riker, have we found Wesley's body? Crusher, there is a signboard up inside his skull. There is a logic in his mind. There is a philosophy in his mind. It is the reason he has remained dead. What? It is possible that this is the creator's message? What in the world? I mean, the thing to do about Star Trek The Next Generation is like some of those scripts are really weird. And there could be an episode that I'm not, I mean, I have seen every episode multiple times, so I know that I'm pretty well versed in Star Trek. But I don't remember an episode where Wesley died and then came back to life. It is certainly possible the other half did not destroy Wesley, as Wesley assumed the responsibility of preserving life. Wesley was responsible for Wesley's death and for the deaths of all people that existed. He had no intention of destroying Wesley. The time has come and the time is now. Wesley will be killed. Wesley will be destroyed. Wow, this whole thing. Commander Riker, I could use Wesley's advice, Captain. And that is why Wesley is alive, Commander, not as a means to an end, but as a means to an end, to something new. Wesley is alive, and the black hole was. Yeah, well, I think, as you can already see, this is much more coherent than what you get from a Markov chain. Like, this has already picked up on the fact that this is a script, and so it's written in a way so that there's a all caps name, and then a colon, and then some dialogue. And GPT-2 is already trained in understanding a lot of things about human speech and syntax. It's trained on basically an enormous input text initially, which is derived from the internet, and then I'm basically giving it this as the specific thing to know about here, the specific data set, and seeing if it can recreate it, basically. And it's coming up with something fairly plausible. I mean, the output of GPT-2, when I've seen it before, is often so close to the original or so plausible that you wonder if it's something from the original, and so you kind of go into it and look. In fact, I'm kind of curious to see if some of these lines are from the original, but I think they're probably not. Just because, again, I don't remember an episode where Wesley died and came back to life or something. You know, so let's see, must be destroyed was an unusual phrase. Okay, interesting. I did find 3 instances of the phrase must be destroyed, but they were different things. And so I think perhaps the model is interested in, oh no, wait, will be destroyed. Let's see, maybe. I mean, things get destroyed in Star Trek. So, okay, so I'm looking and I'm finding, so that phrase will be destroyed. I found 14 different instances of that. So the ship will be destroyed, we will be destroyed, the Enterprise 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 will be destroyed. They will be destroyed, they, Enterprise C, shuttle, we, pieces, you, humanity, ship, we, Enterprise. Yeah, so there's never an instance where it says Wesley will be destroyed, but it's intuitive that there is a lot of dialogue about Wesley, and it has, I think, taken bits of dialogue about other things and then put Wesley into the subject of those sentences. It's a very clever kind of thing that this has done. Many possible. This is another interesting phrase. One of many possible conclusions. Yeah, again, these are not things that come from these scripts. This is fascinating. It's already pretty good. Now, once we get into actually having the model fully trained, we can do things. We can adjust the temperature, which will make it more or less chaotic, which is interesting. This is silly. I like it. Okay. Alright, that's it? I don't know. Why not, sir? I have no idea what might become of this. I understand we have no control over the system. The captain of this ship, Mr. Data, has no control over this device. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel right now. I'm the captain of this ship, but I don't have any control over this device. Wow, this is interesting. The scene shifts back and forth over his shoulder as if Picard is talking to someone. Is he trying to explain the situation to us or to some other being? I'm not certain. Yeah, so, this is interesting. It's created a character named N, it looks like. I believe this is GPT-2's version of Q. There is, of course, a character named Q in Star Trek, and I bet that's what's happened there. Let's just check. I don't think there's a character named N. There could be. I mean, Q had his friends, but no, there's not. Yeah, I can't find any instances of just a character named N in here. But lots of Qs, so I think the model has kind of figured out that sometimes it's okay for a character's name to be one letter, and so it might as well be the letter N. I think that's what's happening here. Pretty cool. All right, well, we got up to 500. How far are we going? Was it 1,000 or 10,000? Okay, yeah, so we're just going up to 1,000 steps here, so this actually won't be done. It won't be too long until it's done, because we're at 400, and there was a sample, then we got to 500 and saved that checkpoint, and so we're actually halfway done in terms of the training that this is set up to do. Usually by training it longer, it gets smarter, but I'm already pretty happy with how this is looking. But I definitely want to try some different things with the temperature whenever this gets generated. Yeah, so mainly just hanging out waiting. This stuff, by the way, like neural network things, Janelle Shane is I guess a researcher. I'm not sure what her day job is, but she creates interesting, well, as she says, AI weirdness. And so AIweirdness.com is her website. It's quite funny. She does she shares examples of AI being weird, and it's often pretty entertaining. So this is looking at a kind of, yeah, so this is a kind of AI that supposedly can depixelate images and obviously fails somewhat. And that's usually the failures that are funny. Let's see. Interesting. OpenAI. So OpenAI is the company that makes this, what I'm working with right now, GPT-2. But they also have GPT-3 out. It looks like she's got access to it. Wow. Yeah, and so what she's noticing here is like this is like bots like GPT-2 and 3. It looks like are really good at creating something or saying something and then referring back to it later, like having a kind of internal consistency to what they create, which can be really spooky sometimes. And you can see how it works. Wow. I definitely enjoy weird looking images created by neural networks. This is, of course, thispersondoesnotexist.com is the site that produces these. Mostly these are fairly believable people, but every now and then you get an error, and then the errors can be funny to collect. And there's also different versions with cats. There is a bot, I think it's a bot, or at least it's a Twitter account. It's this cat should not exist, which shows AI generated cats that look terrible. These are all very believable looking people. None of them are real, even if they kind of look familiar. None of these are real people. But they are possible people in the sense that they are faces that the computer has determined are possible given what it knows about how faces work. And they mostly look believable. Something strange going on in the reflection in her sunglasses. See that? There's like different people in the reflections. That's interesting. But yeah, just regular looking people. You could, I mean, after a while you start to notice a couple of little quirks and kind of, you know where to look to determine if like an image like this is generated or not. And you can kind of see around her nose, there's some odd like artifacting around there. You know, but it's still, unless you knew to look at it, or certainly if you knew how to look, what you were looking for, you could easily, I think, be fooled into thinking these are real people. And that's what's so impressive about it. Yeah, anyone on the sides, you can see this woman over here, anything on the sides or in the background, it does a lot less good at. This is a model that's meant to be good at faces, and so when it tries to do other things like hats or things around faces, it can really struggle. Yeah, so this hat has some chaotic things going on there. It's just kind of mesmerizing too. Like, it just sort of keep watching. Whoa, something weird happening there on the left. Eesh. That's weird and unsettling. Yeah, very believable, very realistic people. All right, let's see how my script is doing. This is, by the way, where I got all the scripts from. This website, chakotea.net. I wonder if this is named after, what was his name? Commander Chakotay on Voyager? Is it Chakotay? Anyway, the first officer on the Starship Voyager for that show. All right. And we're getting along here. Really just waiting for it to be done, but let's go ahead and look at what else is going to happen. So this is going to... Oh, okay. So this is going to move, basically this is going to save, like, this is, what's happening as this runs is it's probably generating a ton of files somewhere. Yeah, it looks like in here. And what this step is doing, it looks like, is copying this to my drive so that it doesn't get recycled whenever this notebook shuts down, which is what happens with these notebooks. So that's a good idea. And then I can also download it to my computer. But then this will reload it from the drive, and then I can start it. And it looks like here. Okay, so I can load it that way and then generate some text. So yeah, this is an example using Shakespeare, and then there's all these options we can do. So the temperature is where we might have some fun with different levels of chaos. Let's see how our script is doing now. Admiral DeForge, you got a promotion. Yeah, I definitely want to have it generate titles. So, In the Flesh, First Contact. I don't remember that episode. I wonder if... First Contact, is that an episode title? I don't remember the titles very well of the episodes. I usually just remember the main events. I don't seem like there is an episode called First Contact, although that's a conventional concept in science fiction. In the Flesh does sound like a title, though. Maybe not. The phrase "in the flesh" does occur once, but okay, interesting. Just reading these scripts. I guess I can show you what I'm looking at. I'm looking at my script here. This is just the text of it, TNG. Alright. Still working. Basically, I want to see if I can have it generate a complete script of an episode. And so I need to figure out how to start it and then basically how long of an episode. And I wonder if there's a conventional, like with these transcripts, if there's a conventional way for how they end. Well, I guess they end in a long piece of space and then the next episode is written. And it's usually the titles are on 2 lines, which might make it a little bit tricky for it to generate these. But start date seems to be they always start with a start date. So that's important. Okay, still working. I know this is kind of boring to watch me wait for this, but I don't really have anything else to do today. Spent a lot of time yesterday working on those videos, so I hope they're helpful. If nothing else, I think they will be useful to me in the future, so I mainly made them so that I tried to make them kind of generic so that if I need to explain to a class in the future how to work with Markov chains, I can just link to that video, and hopefully it's a good enough explanation and demonstration of how to do it. It did occur to me one issue with my code, though. I should probably put in an exception catch thing, because I realize there's a possibility of it like failing and then never completing, like because of the way I wrote it inside of a while loop. So I might rewrite that code, and if I do, I might need to do a different video for that. I'm not sure what's going on. My kids are messing with each other, it sounds like. Be right back. Hey guys, stop messing around. Whenever Daniel laughs like that, I know you're up to something. Stop doing whatever you're doing. Stop. Well, I'm back. They're just, I don't know what they're doing over there. Alright. Dan Riker. And you don't. Yeah, you know, the thing, of course, with Star Trek, I mean, one of the things it's known for is the technobabble, or kind of the made-up words and phrases. So I think some of this might end up being indistinguishable from that. Like it might be something that it's hard to tell if it's made up or not. It's interesting, chrysoid and chrysoido. Interesting how it seems to have a different version of this character's name. I don't think those are, I don't remember a character named Chrysoid. Yeah, I don't think that's that's real. Also, I don't know about Dashel. That's unusual too. I mean, that is a real name, obviously, but it's not, I don't remember it being in Star Trek. Of course, there were several like noir episodes where Dashiell Hammett might be referenced, but I don't think they did that by name, and so this is something that GPT-2 seems to have added because it knows that that is a real human name. Oh, it's done. Wow, okay, great. So let's see. Let's move on to the next steps. Okay, so this is going to copy this into my drive. Go ahead and run that. It's a lot of files and things, I guess, so it's copying it over. I'm not sure how big that's going to be. I guess I should take a look. I do have a fair amount of memory in my drive available, so should be okay. But yeah, this may take a bit. It probably has to compress it first and then move it, so it's probably compressing it now. And then once this is done, then I'll be able to move on to text generation. Hopefully that'll be interesting. I'll go ahead and hide my text there. Yeah, so we're making it work. I just noticed I look kind of purpley today. I've been changing this, trying to change the temperature on the white balance on this. So I was recording at night most recently. That's a little better, a little bit more natural. If I go all the way, whoa, nope, too yellow. Too pale. It's hard to get this right, I find, because it's kind of a lag. You know what? It's fine. Good enough. Oh, it's done. Great. A lot of this stream today has just been me kind of wasting time waiting for this to be done, and that's just how it goes. Okay, running the next cell, it's going to copy it back into the VM. Great. And I guess I didn't have to do that, but here we go. Okay, so it ended up being a gigabyte, which is not bad. All right. But that does take time to copy a gigabyte of text, so. Or I guess it's unzipping it too, once it gets back over here. Okay, looks like it's done. And now let's try this. Oh, okay. Looks like it told me I didn't need to do that. Okay, great. Thank you for writing this very helpful error message. So I guess, yeah, whoever wrote this package has done a good job. Okay, good. So let me try. I think this should actually generate something. Uh-oh, we have an error. Let's see what happens. Oh boy, that's quite a long error. 2 root errors failed. Okay. Failed to use, attempt to use uninitialized value model, blah, blah, blah. So it looks like it doesn't have a model. I thought it was saying that this didn't need to run because it already had one. Okay. If you want to rerun this, restart the rerun imports, but not recopy files. Okay, so maybe I should restart the VM. And I think he's talking about these imports I probably need to rerun, but I don't need to get the files back in until I get here. Maybe because I ran that, it struggled. Okay, well, let me try this. I guess I'll restart the runtime and see if this helps. Okay, so restarting, initializing, there we go. I guess that's right, and then I'll go back here to rerun the import. But I shouldn't have to do the retraining. What it's saying is that the training already happened. I just need to re-import. I need to reload the model stuff, which I think is what this does. I mean, I just did this, so I guess I'm a little confused about when it says rerun this cell. I'm not sure if this means this one here or this one here. But I got an error, so I think that means I should figure out what the error was before I try to proceed. I mean, figure out the error, but then also try to solve the problem. Okay, let's see what happens. Well, maybe it says not recopy files. I think, isn't that what this is doing? Okay, that looks better. Okay, well, it worked, I guess, in the sense that it didn't produce any errors. So let's see if we can generate text now. I wonder what it means by a single text. Like one letter, one document, one script. Should take a while to do this. Usually generating shouldn't take long at all if the model's already trained. Captain, I'm not, okay, here we go. So this has produced something. What? Wow. That's fascinating that this is telling me. This is a computer-generated scene of the first 2 days of the 24th century. The sequence is originally from The Art of Manner of Two, and the rest of the scenes have been copied from the series. What? It definitely does not start this way. Like in my original script, it doesn't say anything unless this is. The model is smart enough to be self-explanatory, like it's actually saying this is computer generated? Like how does it know it's computer generated? So I'm gonna look at his Shakespeare example, see if it started off with anything similar, like this is a computer generated, Shakespeare. Let's see, I'm going back again. This is the, does not start that way. Wow, so I'm a little interested in this. It seems like my model knows that it's writing something, the art of manner of two. The first 2 days of the 24th century, like, really? Like, how does it know that? And is that, I mean, that's I think, kind of true. I mean, isn't that, I mean, the basic setting for TNG? And I don't think that phrase, though, 24th century, appears written that way in here. No, it does. Okay. The first 2 days, though. I mean, they usually in Star Trek are not that specific, and like the whole idea about star dates is that they're meant to be kind of vague. Like, so there is sort of a sequence to it, and I think people have retroactively like retconned an explanation of them. But if I remember correctly, there's no internal consistency intended by them. Like they're just meant to say this is vaguely in the future, and you can kind of tell like each episode that is like it has to be at a later star date than the one before it, or something. That there's a very loose sense of chronology with those. But they're never that specific about what day it is. The first 2 days of the. I mean, this is true. This is a computer-generated scene, so that's fascinating. I mean, they do actually have computer-generated things, obviously in Star Trek, the holodeck, right? But I wonder if that phrase "computer-generated" appears in here because. It does? Okay, great. So the phrase computer generated appears a couple times. One of them looks like a holodeck episode. And another episode is where it's the other episode where Mr. Scott from the original series appears. Yeah, that's such a sad episode. But anyway, yeah. So that phrase "computer generated scene" does not appear. I'm really impressed by this. I did not expect it to be this accurate. All right, so it seems like mostly a conversation between Picard and Crusher. Okay. So this does look like it's Picard being introduced, and that does happen, I believe, in the first episode. Not quite as described here. Let's see. Yeah, the first scene is actually Picard, Data, and Troy, it looks like, and they're basically showing up to Farpoint, kind of in the middle. I mean, so it just kind of starts with them, but this is very much. This seems almost like a prequel. Welcome aboard, Captain. Please get your seat. I have been assigned the duty of commanding the vessel which will be taking us in. Captain, your first officer is an officer of the USS Enterprise, just as I am. I expect you to be on the bridge. That is not advisable. I'm afraid not. Captain, you are the commander of this vessel? Captain, I'm not here to lead you into battle. Then you have no command of the Enterprise. I'm sure I don't. Captain, you are the commanding officer. You didn't just take command of the Enterprise. That's not true. They have this argument, it looks like, and they're in the transporter room. Crusher, we're not here for you to command. Captain, we are here to transport you to safety. Where are we going to get to? The transporter room is a couple of blocks away. I don't see any other choice. Lieutenant Worf, open the door. Worf, there are no other options in this situation. You're right, Lieutenant. We may have to transport you alone, but Lieutenant Worf has the bridge. No, we'll take him to the transporter room. It's not that simple, Captain. You're wrong, Doctor. We have to transport you to the transporter room. I'm sure we will be able to take you there. Good. Now we'll make ourselves scarce at the transporter room. Transporter room. This has really latched onto the transporter room as an important location. Captain, I want to be aboard, but I don't know how. I'm sure it's not too late, Doctor. You seem very determined. I'm not going to be able to make any decisions for you. You're right, Captain. I don't want to be on this ship right now. I understand. I'm just worried about you. I understand. I'm worried too. I know. I'm just not sure how I got here. I just need to get out of here. You're right. I'm not going to stay here. You don't know how I got here. I know. I'm just going to get out of here. I know. It's your fault. I can't let you go. I can't leave. I can't. This is that back and forth, like romantic tension that always existed between Picard and Crusher coming out here. But really, like, this reads like this scene here especially reminds me of like Waiting for Godot, the existentialist play by why am I blanking on his name? You know what I'm talking about. Waiting for Godot. Well, I can picture him and I cannot think of his name. I feel embarrassed by that. Well, anyway, let's see what else we can do. So let's generate some more text and let's try to change things out. So the temperature is going to be a number between, a float between 0 and 1. And this has it set on 0.1. In samples, what do these do? I don't really know what in samples and batch sizes do. Oh, that's me up here. Let's just try changing some numbers and see what happens. So we'll have it generate 250 again. Let's take the temperature. So the temperature is already pretty high at 0.7, but let's try it at 0.1, like really low first. Make the prefix here, let's do start date, so that it'll kind of start with the beginning of an episode, maybe? Is that how it's written, or is it all caps? Start date. Okay, so let's see. I just think that opening scene was brilliant. I'm very impressed by that, and I was not planning to be super ready. Okay. All right, here we go. This does look pretty boring, like it said. Okay, start date 45134.4. Captain, we are entering the neutral zone. On screen. The neutral zone is marked. On screen. The neutral zone is marked. On screen. The neutral zone is marked. And so on. All right. That's a pretty boring episode. Okay, let's do another episode. Start date 45223.4. Captain, we are entering the neutral zone. So they're back in the neutral zone. Okay, great. Captain, there's another one. Well, this is a much earlier start date. 4589.4. Captain, we've entered the neutral zone. On screen. The neutral zone is now declared. On screen. The neutral zone is now declared. On screen. Okay. Number 1, we're ready to beam aboard. Acknowledged. Number 1. We've reached the planet and we're preparing to beam a crew of 12 on board. We're ready to beam on board. Acknowledged. We're ready to beam on board. Acknowledged. He's just acknowledging it. Okay, then back to the neutral zone. Okay, so that certainly was not super interesting. Let's try to change the temperature. I think the temperature difference is going to make the most difference. So let's make this one a little bit in the middle, 0.5. Let's see what happens. I think it's the repetition that I find really funny. And like the callbacks, like the way that it references something and then like it references that again, like the fact that there was a transporter. All right, the doors open and a tall, thin man enters holding a pistol. This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Enterprise. He's wearing a uniform and has a cane. You've been on this ship for a long time, haven't you, Riker? Yes, sir. I've been here for a few years now. Picard, you don't look very well. Riker, what happened to the cane? It's been here for ages. I'd like to see it. Well, I'm not going to help you with that. I'm not going to ask you. You're going to have to learn your own ways. I'm not going to be able to tell you what I'm going to do. Well, I'm sure you. All right, 10 forward. Data at the bar. Just a good evening. He starts to leave. I hope you enjoy your stay here. He goes back to the bar. I wish to remain in the area for a few more hours. He gets a text. I'm not sure I would enjoy the weather here. He picks up a woman at a table. Please, she's a woman in her 30s. I'm not sure I wish to remain in the area. She puts her hands on his chest. Whoa. I wish to remain in the area. She kisses him. I wish to remain in the area. She leaves. I wish to remain in the area. He leaves. I wish to remain in the area. He gets a text from a woman. All right, great. You can see certainly snippets from something else. Like this phrase, he gets a text from a woman. That could certainly have occurred in some other script, and this generating thing probably has picked up on the fact that this is like other things that are scripts, and so it's putting pieces of that in here with the characters and things from this script. I think that's kind of what happens with GPT-2. Okay, let's try to take the temperature all the way up and see what happens. So this could be nonsense, or it could be some kind of sense that's amusing. Let's see. All right. Oh, look, it actually pulled in Downton Abbey. Great. So that's an example of how it gets things from other places. Stardate 43125.5. Captain's log. Stardate 43125.5. Using the Voron system, our search satellites have revealed only sparse Terran activity in that part of the unknown regions. Although the Victorians converted hundreds of their worlds into secret offsets, none exposed these methods of attack. It has proved too fatal. Starfleet has assigned cautions to civilians from the Victorians. I'm not sure how I've been doing. Okay, bridge. Captain, we're losing. There's resistance along our flight path. We're trying to cut this out. Hold on, number one. Shields up. Shields away. On screen. Auxiliary power. On screen. What is it? Someone down ahead. The Victorians are firing low-level weapons. The Julian may have won the battle. It's interesting. I think, I wonder if Victorians, if it's replaced Victorians with probably Cardassians. Like this sounds like a conflict with the Cardassians. So I wonder if maybe it just sort of went in and thought, that's an important kind of word. There's some other script where Victorians was an important kind of word, and so it put them in the same kind of semantic context. And then it said, like, it just swapped them out, maybe. Installation of Hummingbird and Dial M for help to any vessel. What is it about? It just doesn't make any sense. What if this is some kind of trauma to the Borg, a new form we haven't seen, a way out kind of their world? There, it hits me. And this is still the stable termination node from the time before Geordi's transformation? That wouldn't make any sense. Perhaps it's been desamped. I wasn't able to determine what this was all about. If it's an inside job, something we can't handle, the 3-cell extinctions could produce a VMware sticking its head up whole. Put 3-cell treatments. Okay, so VMware is the kind of software, so it's put this into this kind of place. So again, really interesting how it can do these sort of callbacks. Yeah, and I'm pretty interested in how Lady Clarabelle shows up here. Was that a character from Downton Abbey? I don't remember. Rancho? I don't remember a character named Rancho. I've been thinking, Admiral, I've long considered it possible that the old Confederate defense fleet represents that old Confederacy. Oh, okay, even today. All right, well, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this output. I do think that 0.7 is probably pretty good. So that's as far as the overall, tone of it. I think 0.7 was about right. Maybe 0.8. Let's just try 0.8, and then I'll wrap up the stream. So this will be a little bit more chaotic than the first time I ran this. I still can't believe that the first thing it said was this is a computer-generated scene, because it literally is a computer-generated scene. That's crazy. Okay, so stardate 46242.9. Enterprise has dropped off 2 Institute 16 engineers have been assigned to the Maquis sector on an investigation of a mysterious transmission from the Gravis control system. It was apparently directed to the Federation High Command. Data, I will be replacing the Maquis weapons chief for the next few days. Go ahead, Data. I was rejected twice for this job. Why? The Maquis are a militant separatist group. Why are you being sent into the Maquis sector to investigate this transmission? Because its origin is unknown. Who's funding this mission? It is Maquis. They have recruited a few senior officers on the Federation and the Maquis task force. Who's leading this mission? I am an observer. I mean, that sounds like... I don't remember that episode. But I certainly do remember different kind of times when they were working with the Maquis. Sometimes in conflict with them. They were a freedom fighter kind of force on Bajor. Vash. There's a Vash episode. And Lurin? I don't remember Lurin. Is there a Lurin? Vash, yeah, Lauren is not. Oh no, Lauren is a character. I don't remember Lauren. Lauren, I think, is a Ferengi character, so that's interesting that Lauren and Vash are having a conversation. I mean, Vash is Picard's old girlfriend who shows up a few times. I don't believe she shows up on, I think it's like 2 episodes, so not very often, but I don't remember her interacting with Ferengi. She mainly hangs out with Q, if I remember correctly. Okay, well, I think that's a pretty good enough demonstration of how to generate text with GPT-2, and if I wanted to make a full-length NanoGenmo kind of book with GPT-2, it looks like I certainly could. I just have to tell it to generate enough text and then save all that somehow in a PDF, and then I'm done. Yeah, so I think that's good enough for today. I think I'll wrap things up. I don't think anyone's actually watching, but just in case someone is, thanks for watching and have a good day. Bye.